ספר בעל שם טוב, עמוד התפילה, אויס קכ"א. When we speak about prayer, we're talking about the creation of spirit. We're always creating spirit, but when we pray, we direct the spirit on high. We focus on the more important areas of the spirit. And the spirit is what runs the body. It runs our body, but it runs all bodies. The spirit that we speak into as we speak runs all bodies, just like right now. I'm speaking into the spirit. What happens? Everyone got something because we're all part of that spirit. So I'm speaking into the spirit, then we're all experiencing something as a result. When I pray, I speak into the spirit. And the spirit is different as a result. After I did what I did, the spirit is different than before I did what I did. And so this interaction has many components. There's a lot that's happening. As I'm saying what I'm saying, I'm creating the spirit, and now that spirit is going to have an impact on the future. So it says, b'tefillah, when we pray, yesh doiren v'mulchama. There's a gift that you're bringing to the king. The greater spirit wants us to speak the right speech in order to help the greater spirit direct the world in the right direction. The spirits that get created by us, they result in what takes place, not in a way that we can understand, but in its own way. Just like they result in our own future, in our own thoughts, in our own feelings, not in a way that we can understand, but in its own way. The effect is very certain, even though we don't know how to quantify it. And so there's a gift that we're giving to the greater spirit, that we are speaking these words, because now he can use these words as he sees fit, and he can better his world as a result. But we're also going to war. We're going to war with all those spirits that we have created that are against the ultimate good. We're going to war with all the spirits that were created by anyone who was against the ultimate good. We're going to war with the other side. The other side is a spirit, seems to be the same as the legitimate spirit, and yet it's made of evil. It doesn't have a soul. It's made of all the times that the soul was angry at itself. Those spirits have a place where they go. And then those spirits want to hurt the soul. That's their nature. And so when we pray, we go to war with them. This is how we can win the war. We can create spirits. They need us to create spirits. They can create spirits also, but guess who is creating those spirits for them? Only us. There's no one else that can do it for them. And so they will try to get our mouth to say. But if we are wise, we have our mouth first. We create spirits the way that we please, that's good to the soul, that's kind to reality. And so, b'tefillah yesh doiren v'mulchama, there's the gift that we give to the greater unity, to the ultimate truth. it benefits, it becomes enriched, it becomes refined, it becomes closer to being pleased with itself. And there's the war. The war, he's going to fight against all the parts of him that are thinking like a stranger. What does it mean, thinking like a stranger? It means they don't have your best interest at their core. They're not here to help you. They're a result of you being upset at some point in your life, and now there is an upset spirit inside of you that doesn't like you. If we ask him, he would sabotage everything. If we don't ask him, he'll still manage to sabotage some things. And so we're going to war with him, and what is he going to do? He's going to send his messengers to try to confuse us, distract us, make us think different things, so that we don't get our way, so that we can create that spirit that's going to shift the balance of who's in charge. If we create the right spirit, then they will lose their source of income. They will lose their food. Until eventually they disappear. That's what happened by David. David HaMelech says, V'libi cholal bekirbi, my heart is empty inside. The side of the left, the side that is against life, has been completely exterminated. There is no part of me that wants to hurt life in any way whatsoever. So David HaMelech, he killed that part by starving him. He didn't let him have a thought. He didn't let him create an emotion. He understood who is the enemy, and he starved him to death. And so therefore he says, V'libi cholal bekirbi, my heart is pure. It's ready to unite. There's no one that is against the unity that's present inside of me. That's why he became the fourth leg of the Merkava, the fourth leg of the chariot that carries the divine will, the Kisei HaKoved. He became the fourth leg. The fourth leg represents the Malchus. The Malchus represents the result, the creation. He was able to unite with the creation as it was. He loved it exactly that way. Not that it was easy, not that it was kind, not that it was always pleasant, but because it was reality, that's why he loved it. He didn't require any other conditions. That's why reality loved him. That's why something special happened to him. His children after him, all of them received something because of his relationship with reality, the way that he loved it, the way that he saw it, the way that he understood its importance and its holiness. He knew that everything is sacred. So what if people here are mad? That's their problem. They'll have to deal with it at some point. But don't you let that confuse you. Everything is sacred. Everything is holy. Everything is by the divine will, and otherwise it wouldn't be. There is what to lean on if we can learn how to cooperate with it. And so David HaMelech changed something in himself that is forever different. He's like a different species. He's something else. There was a change in him because of how he was, because of how he saw it, and therefore he gained access to it. That's what happened to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yakov. That's why these are the four legs of the Merkava, meaning the Kisei HaKoved, the divine will was revealed through these people because of the way that they saw life, because of how seriously they took it, and they knew how to take it seriously. If you take it seriously the wrong way, it can be terrible. It's the type of serious that made it sweet. They loved it. Every moment of it, they loved it. And it wasn't pleasant and it wasn't easy. David HaMelech had terrible things happen to him, constantly. He had a difficult life. He was chased, he was embarrassed, he wasn't even part of his family. Nobody wanted him, nobody claimed him as theirs. He was like an illegitimate child, sent out to be with the sheep, so that nobody has to remember that he even exists. And so it wasn't out of comfort that he fell in love with reality. It was because of his heart, because he felt, because of his way of looking at life, his wisdom, and seeing that we're interacting here with something much bigger. It's not our intelligence that's going to dictate what's happening here. This is not really it. It's the intelligence that's capable of making this happen. This is the one that we're up against. This is why we are struggling. We are not realizing his depth. We're not realizing his power. We're not realizing his intelligence. We're underestimating what he wants from us. We're underestimating how he designed us, every detail, so that it can be so perfect. And so when we neglect, we're really losing out. If we cannot unite, if our forces are not working with each other but are working against themselves, we can't even imagine the damage. We can't even imagine what we're losing out. We've never experienced what could be. But he created this for what could be, not what could be, what will be. What will be, but we don't know when, but it could be now. It's our potential, but it's not our potential. Oh wow, if you do this, if you become like the world's best, you might reach it. No, this is our potential, meaning this is what we should have been. This is what we were designed to be. This is why it feels wrong when it's not that. So he says that we're going to war with the Machshav Zoris, and how are we going to win? Sheyikshir kol echad b'shorshe, that he needs to tie each Machshav Zor back to the source. What's the soul of that evil thought? What's the soul of that evil inclination of mine? Why is it angry? Why did it become an enemy of the soul? If we look at the soul of the enemy of the soul, we will find that it started off with something good. The soul is always good. The soul wanted something good. Maybe something it even deserves. Maybe something it should have had. And then there was someone else that was responsible, or something else that wasn't functioning, or something that offended. And then there was anger. Maybe even the anger was justified. But it didn't start with the soul being an enemy of the soul. It started with the soul loving and caring for the soul. So within the enemy, within the Machshav Zoris, within those strange thoughts that are against the soul, is really hiding a spirit that is in love with the soul. He's just confused about how to express his love. He's confused about what the soul needs. So the soul of the enemy of the soul is a holy soul. But the enemy of the soul is not aware of that. The enemy of the soul is just the enemy of the soul. He's the face of the enemy. So if we want to eliminate him, we need to remove his soul. We need to recognize what's giving him power, and then he will have no power. He will disappear. He will be digested. The soul will have its power back. And so he says, that the main three directions from where all the thoughts come is Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. Right, left, and center. A right thought has to do with increasing, getting more, looking for enhancement. And the left has to do with restriction, protection, strength, interaction with others. And so the thoughts are going to come, either I want something or I want to run from something. Those are the two main directions, the right and the left. And in the middle are thoughts about all these somethings. It's your relationship with them. It's your way of interacting with the world, the balance that you find between the right and the left, what's called your personality. So when you're thinking about yourself and you're creating your personality, this is in between the two sides. This is where you're going to mix parts of the right and parts of the left in order to create yourself. And so whenever a thought comes, first we should identify which of the three columns does it come from? And then we can identify the soul that's driving it. How did this happen? What is the cause of this? What good was it trying to do that became bad? And then we liberate the life force. ואז מקבל בדוירן. זה המחשבה שלו יזורה. Says, what's the gift that he gets? The gift that he gets is this evil spirit becomes now a loyal spirit. He gains this piece of soul because he liberated its spark. He liberated the part that was him. He identified it accurately. Now, whatever charge, whatever power was being held in that spirit is now working for him and not against him. He returned a spark of the divine to its Father in heaven, to reality where it resides. Until now, the spark was in conflict with the source, and now the spark is aligned with the source. And so this is the process of the prayer, where he goes into conflict with everything in him that's not him. The next one is Ois Kivchav Beis. גם קיבו איזה מחשב וזורס, קיבלתי ממורי איך ידע איזה מחשב מקו החסד שנופלה בסוד השבירה וצריך לתקנה לנויסה. And so he says, when a person has a thought that's not working for him, there is a source, there is an attribute that's animating that thought. And so he said, how did this thought become the way that it is? That's because of the broken vessels, the fallen sparks. The sparks that have lost their way already before physical creation, these sparks are now looking to be digested. How are they going to be digested? First, they came in to the human perception by giving you an experience that's against the Creator. And since these sparks that are shattered have forgotten their identity, they can animate the human soul to go against the Creator. And so when this thought animates the mind, the human being should identify, the intelligence should identify that this thought fell into the opposite side through the shattering of the vessels. That's why originally I got animated by this spirit. That's why I have such a side in me. Because naturally I wouldn't ever want to go against the Creator. So how could it be that I have this potential that animates me against the Creator? This relates to the shattered vessels that we are trying to repair in order for the soul to have a vessel on this planet so that the spirits can be agreeable with the soul. Sometimes the soul would dress up as a thought of something that one shouldn't do. And so the thought is not just a thought. The thought is trying to convince and animate the body to bring out an action. It's thinking of something bad to say, and it wants to discuss how it's going to be said and when it's going to be said and how it's going to feel when we say it. It wants to make itself real until it gets manifested. Kasha b'machshava hazu, when such a thought comes, a person should know that the only reason some thoughts like this would come to him is that there's already a desire to punish him. They're just looking for an excuse. And so the angry part is winning, the mekatrig has the upper hand, and it's been decided that there needs to be some type of a suffering. But now parts of the soul are going to say, no, this man is a kind man, he doesn't deserve to suffer, how can we do this to him? And so in order to finish their evil thought on this person, they're going to convince him to do something that's not right. And then they're going to say, you see what he did? Now for sure everybody agrees that he deserves the suffering. And so he says, if thoughts come to him in the middle of his prayer, and they're trying to make him do an action that's against his best interest, he should know that there's already a kitrug, there's already a prosecutor that's prosecuting his case. And that's why they're trying to gather evidence. They're trying to create a case against him. This is the part of him that's angry at him, that's trying to sabotage his well-being. So this is always happening. We always have parts of us that are working for our best interest, and we always have parts of us that are working against our best interest. They come, and we see the thoughts. They're not labeled, so we can't necessarily tell, but certain thoughts come to cause damage. They come to scare us, or they come to make us upset, or they come to make us angry, or come to create conflict between people. And so these thoughts are not there in order to help us. They are the parts of us that are against us. And these parts, they conspire. They don't have the soul's interest at heart. And so when they use the brain, it's not in our best interest. When they use our kidneys, it's not in our best interest. They use our organs because it's a spirit. The spirit lives. And everything that we create into the spirit lives. And so he says, he should become very concerned. So concerned that he remembers himself. He remembers who he is. He remembers what he wants. He remembers his loyalties. If he remembers his loyalties, then there becomes a yichud between yira and noira. The one who is afraid returns to who he is afraid of. He realizes that his concern for his soul is emanating from his own love for his soul. It's emanating from the care that he naturally has for the being that he is. And this was designed by the source. This is part of the kindness of the source, is that he gives us such a deep relationship with what we experience so that we take it seriously for the sake of the soul. And so this relationship between the one who is afraid and who he is afraid of and what he is afraid for, this reminds him his real nature. This reminds him his loyalties. It reminds him that he's not really here in order to serve any external purpose. He is here to serve the source that's giving him life. He has to be loyal to the source that's giving him life. He has to know the ways of that soul in order to know how to be loyal to it, in order to know how to not offend it. Not in its own actions, in the way that he behaves with himself, and not in the way that he interacts with others. Everything has an impact on the soul. And so when he remembers his loyalties, Oz, Nasa Yichid Yira v'Noira, the one who is afraid and what he is afraid of unite as one. V'yispardu kapoya le'oven, and all the evil loses access, loses sustenance, and they disappear. V'kasha pirsha posik yedati ki ishi yifas maraot, the posik v'en yagunin shisimen oines That over there it says about Sarah when she was in Mitzrayim, or she's getting close to Mitzrayim, that Avram was saying that because she was such a beautiful woman, it can result in people desiring her in a way that causes them to separate themselves from the unity, from the source, from the reality that they are residing in. If a person goes into fantasy, if a person wants something that's not real more than the real, so then he reduces the power of the source, he reduces the unity. Because the unity resides in reality, it resides in what is. This was the greatness of David that we spoke about before, that he loved it as it was. He understood the sacredness of what is the way that it is. And he didn't love it in a theoretical world of what it could be, of what it should be, or what it might be. In what it is, he saw the potential of what it should be, and that's what he worshipped. Something real, not something theoretical. And so, the sight of a woman can cause a person to go into a theoretical world, and then they are less in the real world. And so he called that death. He called that it's like killing someone. Why? Because they leave reality. If they left reality, it's like they're not here. They're somewhere else, somewhere that doesn't exist, only in their mind. שמעתי ממורי ביר תוספס דפרק כמה דראש השונה בשם ירושלמי, יום אחד בו יכוון, כי צורך להלס במחשבתם ממטה למעלה בסוידר פח ניצויצם. We have to elevate with our thoughts from below to above in the secret of the 288 sparks. The 288 sparks we spoke about, that these are the sparks that fell into the opposite side before the world was created. So there was an attempt at creation, and in that attempt, all the parts were created, but no cooperation between the parts. Every part wanted to be in charge. Because every part wanted to be in charge, none of them could contain the light that was meant to be given to them. Just like if we were to take a body and we were to dismember the parts and we say, okay, in each part at least, if I just have a heart, let it at least be a heart. I'm not saying it should know how to talk, but let it at least be a heart. No, not even a heart it's going to be. Because it can't contain the light. Only with the cooperation of all the other organs it can contain the light of life. And so the brain is not going to be able to be telling us even an intellectual statement if it doesn't have all the other organs to give it life and to give it circulation and to give it air and all the different things that it needs. And so the light can only be contained when there is cooperation. The more cooperation, the more of the light can be contained. And so because these kings were not ready to cooperate, they shattered. Shattering means that their existence could not contain the explanation of why they exist. They could no longer experience what they were meant to experience. They could no longer know why are they in the condition that they are in, because that puzzle has been broken into trillions of pieces, bits and pieces of light, of existence, of source energy that has forgotten its nature, has forgotten who it is, or what it is, or why it is, or where it is, knows nothing. This is why when we come into the body, we know nothing. We know nothing because the body is created by physical matter. Physical matter houses these sparks. And so these sparks are sparks of a very high light that came to a very low place. So when we go against Creator, we are siding with these sparks against the source. When we go towards the Creator, when we return to the Creator, we are siding with the Creator against the misunderstanding of these sparks. So we don't want to kill the sparks, we want to liberate them. But the sparks are ready to kill. The sparks don't know good from evil. But there are parts of these sparks, there are things that have gotten dressed on these sparks. They're not from the original sparks, but since these sparks allow for a certain type of activity that's against the Creator, there are elements that have attached themselves to these sparks that are completely irredeemable. There's no way that they're ever going to turn for the Creator. The sparks themselves can be liberated, but a lot of the klipot, a lot of the peels that have attached themselves to these sparks cannot be liberated. They have to be discarded. And so he says that when he's praying, the goal is to elevate all these thoughts from the low part, from where they're coming, to the high part where they belong, from where they came from. This is what we've been working on. Until Mashiach comes, this is what we're working on, is to liberate these sparks. And so he says, in order to elevate these sparks, you have to take them up from the lowest place. It's the lowest place. Malchus Malchus means the lowest sphere. But within that sphere, the lowest part, so when he experiences this thought, it should cause him to tremble. How can such a thought even exist, and especially inside of me? Oh my gosh, where does it want to take me? What does it want to do with me? And so when he does that, that fear brings him back to remembering his loyalties. And again, this is the yichud that he spoke about before. There is meyachad yirem noira. There is meyachad the fear with the one who is causing fear. Noira is the one he's afraid of. Who is afraid and why is he afraid? And we see that at the essence of this fear there is a love, there is a caring, there is a desire for the good and the well-being of something. Through that, he is liberating the spark of holiness from its peels. The evil thought had a holy soul. He liberated the soul, and the evil thought fell away. This man that was speaking, he says that it was hard for him to find what to focus on when he was praying. He was on such a high level that the thoughts that usually come from the fallen sparks didn't come. They didn't appear in his prayer. So הטענה של מחשבת ברור אצלו מחשב הזורס למוצא מוקם להלס ממטה למעלה. כי אם על ידי שאול המחשב למנוס קורס בעשר הפרחים. ובפרוט יש דברים אלה צורך לימוד דברי פי חוכם חיים. So the story goes over there that this man said that he wanted to pray and he would count the bricks of his house as he was praying. Or he would count the birds that fly by as he was praying. So Shem Tov is trying to explain what these expressions are telling us about the nature of prayer. And so he says that these are very deep ideas to understand the real details of what he's trying to tell us, but on a very simple level, it means that when he would pray, he would have to use some type of a method in order to invoke strange thoughts so that he has how to elevate them. Because naturally he wouldn't anymore have strange thoughts. He was already so pure that all his thoughts were aligned with a higher purpose. And so he couldn't do the worship of prayer. He couldn't take the low elements and elevate them to the higher source. And so he would use different methods in order to create an opportunity for strange thoughts to arise. This is just a few lines from the next piece, Kuf Daled. קיבלתי מרבויסאי, מפי ספרים, דתפילה בכל יום צורך כוונה אחרת. Every day, the prayer needs a different intention. The intention that worked yesterday is not going to do it today. And this a person can experience. This can also be experienced when we learn, is that when we gain new wisdom, there's a special excitement that we can't have again unless we're talking very deep wisdom. Deep wisdom has the nature that every time you hear it, every time you speak about it, is as if you're hearing it for the first time. But general intellectual information, it loses its power after the first time. And so also prayer, where we're trying to excite the soul, where we're trying to gain access to the heart, we want to create emotion. So of course, if you're going to go on repeat, you're not going to create that emotion. There has to be some new angle to it. There has to be a new interpretation to it. This is what's going to create the response. That you should try to always be mechadish, to have something new that he adds to the experience. So the purpose of prayer is to elevate the broken shards. This is why prayer is called Chaya Sho versus Torah, which is called Chaya Olam, because prayer is something that happens only in the exile. Prayer means that we're far. If we weren't far, we wouldn't have to pray. Prayer means we're sending our spirits. We're not commanding. When we're close, we command. We say, this is what should happen, and it happens. But when we're far, when we're conflicted, we've been broken down, when we don't think we have any power, so then we pray, and sometimes yes, and sometimes no, and sometimes maybe. It's all going like we're talking to something in the distance, even though what we're talking to is closer to us than our thoughts. And so he says, the purpose of the prayer is to elevate the broken sparks. Why are we so distant? What happened to us? What happened to our power? Where did it all go? Oh! Broken shards. Angry hearts. Conflicting thoughts, beliefs, understandings. Oh, now we need to pray. Now we need to find a way to elevate these sparks. We need to find a way to show them back the way to their home. This, the secret nature of these Repach Nitzoitz, and why were they shattered in the first place. The shattering happened because there was going to be created the world, there was going to be created the reality. But we needed that reality to become attractive to the Creator. How's that reality going to be attractive to the Creator if they go into a broken world and they fix it? And then the Creator is very attracted to them. And so as we fix it, we are showing the desire towards the Creator. We, the female, are creating Mayim Nukfin towards the Creator. We desire Him. How do we show that we desire Him? Because look, we're fixing your world. You made it broken, so we can fix it. Here, we're fixing it. So that you can come. Otherwise, He would just create it, and then it would be what it would be. And what would be the relationship? It would be the relationship of a source and an object. But the Creator didn't want an object. The Creator wanted a subject. How did He create a subject? By giving it a challenge that it needs from within itself to solve. He's standing by and letting us do it. And when we do it, we show our desire for Him. We invite Him in. This means that the Shekhinah is creating Mayim Nukvim. The Shekhinah is creating the moisture of desire, because she wants her husband, she wants him to come closer to creation, to appear within creation. This is going to be the day when we have the intelligence to understand what we're interacting with. That day, the husband is going to arrive. Every thought that comes in prayer comes in order to be liberated. That's the only reason it appears. Why? Because the soul doesn't want to be liberated? Of course it wants to be liberated. So why is it telling me this nonsense? Because this is what's standing in the way of you in liberation. And so it tells you, you want to know why you're not liberated? Because I'm busy thinking about who knows what. That's what I got entangled with. Liberate me. Tell me how it's wrong. Tell me what I should do right. Okay, then we'll be liberated. Liberate this thought, and I'll tell you quite a few other problems that I've been dealing with when you haven't been paying attention. And if you'll go through all of them, then you will find. Then there will be desire. Then there will be life. Then there will be more intelligence. There will be a unification. The wise man knows from the thoughts to find the inner essence. Everything starts off holy. Everything was designed to be good. Everything is looking to make things better. But then they don't have the right definition of better. And then they do worse. But at the source, at the core, the soul of things, the soul is good. The soul wants good. And so they're holy sparks that went into the klippas, they went into a covering, and then there's strange thoughts. For an example, he wants to think about women he can't have. But umitzat chesed, it speaks about kindness, the side of kindness. Oh, he wants to be so kind. He wants to have pleasure, he wants to give pleasure, he wants to experience the grace of the one who designed him. He's looking for something good. It's coming from a side of kindness. It happens to be the way that he's doing it. He's entangling himself with reality. He's getting into a conflict with reality. So it's going to for sure cause him damage. It's a machshava zora, no doubt. But why did it come? How did it happen? It happened because there was a desire for good. There was a desire for something better. שמצד החסד, כמו שנאמר איש אשיר כחסד חסד, חסד הוא. ויובן שאם יש לו לזה טייבה, מצד ניצוץ אחד קודש, שיש לו. There's a holy soul in there that wants something holy. It doesn't know how to make that holy happen. But there's something holy that wants something holy. That's at the core of the transaction. That's really what's going on. It dressed up the way that it dressed up, therefore it's not the way that it should be. Now we have to look at the soul and liberate that soul. We have to see the soul of the thing. We have to recognize the holiness of the soul of the thing. So he says, if there's a desire for this woman because of this holy spark, if he can attach himself to the root of this pleasure. There's the source of pleasure from where he gives us pleasure has no limit. That pool of pleasure is filled without limit. And so if he can have the root of the pleasure, if he can go to that pool of pleasure, then of course it will be much bigger than whatever individual pleasure he's imagining. And so therefore he should attach himself to the source that created that pool of pleasure, and the source can give him access at any time. The soul can have pleasure way beyond anything that the body can supply. Even when we have pleasure through the body, we need the cooperation of the soul in order for the body to have pleasure. In essence, the body having pleasure means that there's a lot of soul in the body. That's why there's pleasure. And so of course the soul can have much more pleasure. Even more it can have without the body than it can have with the body. The body is a work in progress, so that it can contain the pleasure that the soul has to offer. The body is not yet ready. We've been training it how to suffer. We haven't been training it in how to have pleasure. This is only in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. There are people who never experience pain, never in their entire life. The environment was created so. The Arakos va'anugos, the women who never experienced pain at the time of the Churban. And they couldn't take it, of course, but you see how people lived a different existence. They understood the nature of things. They understood how to create a lifestyle that is suitable to the soul. And of course, when there's more soul, there's more pleasure. And so it says, go to the root of the pleasure. If you're going to fantasize about something you can't have, then your soul is going to have less pleasure, because you're going into a world that doesn't exist. You're going to have less soul. You're going to be less attached to reality. But if you go within reality and connect to your soul, then you can have pleasure without limit. So he can also have other thoughts that come in order to give him different types of rewards or different types of protections. And every time he should bring it back to the root, saying, you want protection from this, you're afraid of that. Don't you remember who is the source of all this, and who created these attributes, and who created these emotions, and who created this body? Don't you want to be attached to that? And so always to bring that back to the root. This way he liberates the soul. He's not just running away from it. He's actually liberating the spark that gives it life, so that it also aligns with his real values, with his real truth, so that his spirit can be one, so that there's no conflict. והנה עינינו רואים שזה יהיה אפשר שיהיה בכל יום הרהר אחד כמו אתמול שלשום. Every day there's different thoughts. ומכן גם התפילה שישחדש בה לפי רואיס עיניו בהרהורים שלו, לזה צריך דס רחובה וכוונה גדולה שיפיו וליבה ומחשבתי בהסכמה אחת שובין כנוידם. And so all the time there's new thoughts, all the time there's new prayer. And so he needs the right mindset and the right intention, so that he can have his mouth and his heart united, creating the same reality together with his thoughts. If he's just doing the service, he's just saying the same thing every day, and his heart's not with him, so he says that obviously doesn't have the same effect. And so it requires a tremendous intention in order to be able to connect enough, in order to be able to liberate the sparks, in order to really feel what we're saying and what we're thinking, in order to be able to direct the life force in ways that are beneficial to it, so that it can gain access to its own power. This is the goal. As soon as it will have access to its own power, it will set the world straight. Then there will no longer be a struggle. Then everything will cooperate. Then there will be unity.